to the channel where we give you world-class advice on remodeling your houses, your kitchens, your bathrooms, repairs around your house, and engineering disasters. And in today's video, we're covering that famous engineering disaster that has struck probably all of us at any point in time, and that is the P-trap. And this is under your sink, under your kitchen sink, and under your bathroom vanity. And why does your P-trap fail? So today we're covering one of the reasons why your P-trap fails right here at this connection. And I know a lot of you are here probably because you have that leak here. So I'm going to show you one strange failure mode that we found. Now this is typically what you see is this white poly tube here. Don't confuse this with PVC. This is not PVC. I have been experimenting lately with these clear P-traps right here. And this is the second one that I installed in a friend's house. So what happened at Thanksgiving time was I installed a garbage disposal for a friend of ours, and I put one of these transparent P-traps in there so we could see everything that was going on. The water was working perfectly. The trap weir right here, the high level of the water, that weir was at perfect. Everything was running fine. And for 2 months I kept checking with her. Everything fine? She says, yes, no leaks. All of a sudden in January, 2 months later, she goes, I got a leak. I go, what? Can't be, because I do a perfect job setting these up. I don't over tighten them. I don't use my channel locks on them. I don't do anything stupid like that. I hand tighten. That's how you're supposed to do these. Hand tighten nice and snug. So I went over and I opened it up and I saw, well, there was a crack in here. Wow, why is there a crack? So I put in a new one. This is that new one that I put in, and 2 weeks later she calls me up and says this thing failed. And I go, what in the heck? There can't possibly be anything that I'm doing wrong. What's wrong with this thing? So I go over there and I open this up, and you're not going to believe what we found. Okay, so this is what it looks like. You've probably walked by it numerous times in the store, seen this in the bag here, the Everbuilt here, the clear P-trap, and this is the white version here. So take a closer look at this. Look at this here. You see that crack right there? Right there with my fingers pointing there. And then look at all of these other vertical cracks right here on the threads. And I didn't tighten this thing that much. There's no way this could have happened. It's like this thing is just disintegrating here. Look, right here when you look at this angle here, look at those cracks right there. And then on top of that, look at this chunk that's missing there. That just completely dissolved, because I mean, I looked on the nut there. There's nothing on the nut that would have caused this here. So very strange failure mode. When you have little cracks like this, that's what can cause leaks here, because now you're not getting a good seal anymore there. And this is just pretty mind-boggling that this could end up like this. So as you know, Everbuilt here is a Home Depot brand. So I go on the Home Depot website and I start searching for this part here, and I pull up the reviews on this, and I'm starting to see other people complaining that this part had cracks. It developed cracks on them. Some people said the same thing as us, where it worked fine for a few months and then suddenly they got cracks. Well, if it's working fine for a few months, that's not your installation. And I know the company looks like they went in and replied to some people and said, oh, well, you know, if you tighten it too much, you're going to have problems. You know, we're not tightening too much. We're just making them snug. So even their instructions right here, you see it right there on number 6, it says tighten nuts. They're not very specific about it. Tighten nuts, check for leaks. So they don't warn you not to use wrenches, which I don't use anyway. I just prefer to do it by hand tighten. Now here, if you look at the P-trap arm part of it here, you can see there's cracks developing there too. It just doesn't make any sense. And what's ironic here is you can see right there, they're UPC approved and everything. So I guess there's probably something wrong with their chemistry, because it's nothing I'm doing, because I made sure that when we hooked up this second one here, that it wasn't over tightened at all. It was just very, very, you know, loosely snug. Okay, so this thing's developing cracks all over it as well. So this P-trap doesn't look like it's 2 weeks old. It looks like it's 30 years old. You would never know this is a brand new P-trap. All right, so here I want to show you another common mistake that people make that will cause a leak right here. So this is the thing that I've never really liked about P-traps, but everyone else here gets a gasket. They get a gasket here with this nut on the tailpipe of the drain, and then this part here does not get a gasket. It just screws on with the nut, but then this end over here gets a gasket when it goes into the waste line of the wall there, right? But so here's a mistake that a lot of people make, and I've seen plumbers do this too. Well, they'll put this thing in and they try to make that downward slope to the wall, and first of all, it only needs to be 1/4 of an inch per foot, so 1/8 of an inch over 6 inches would be like that, you know, very, very slight. But what happens is when these people try to make a slope, you see what happens? It starts coming up and out of there, and now you have a gap there. I'm a little exaggerated right there, but that kind of shows you. If you have this thing like this, it's so critical that having it sitting like this will cause it to leak. So what I always tell people to do is you loosely fit everything together. You do this nut first. I like to put him on, make sure he's on first. So once you have your P-trap all kind of in place, where your drain pipe is now going through here, the tailpipe from the drain, and then this trap arm here is now going into the waistline. So then what I always do, since this is the most critical connection right here, I make sure this guy is perfectly level and straight, and I tighten him all the way down. But I don't go crazy. It's not really all that tight. It's snug, but not tight, and certainly not tight enough to cause the damage that you see here on this guy here with all these cracks. See all them cracks right there? Because you don't want your P-trap to end up looking like this. Okay, so let me just reiterate here how important this is. You want to fit this down in there first, slide the nut over there, make sure it's going to go over here. So once everything's all dry fit and you have all 3 parts of this P-trap connected, and you're going to start tightening everything down, make sure this is the one that gets tightened down first. This is the most important connection here in your whole P-trap setup here. And this guy must be, you know, just snug, just like that. And make sure that he's not moving. And then once this guy is satisfied, then you can tighten the other 2 down. Do not tighten the other 2 down first and then expect him to conform, because there'll be too much stress on it. You need to make sure he's tightened first. You need to make sure he is satisfied first. That way you'll be satisfied, because if he is not satisfied right here, you will not be satisfied, and then your insurance company will not be satisfied, and they will reject your claim for a flood. So what we're going to do right now is, I want to stress this. I want to see what happens if I tighten this real tight, and then what happens if I use a wrench, and then what happens if I use my channel locks. Does it cause any problems for this? We're going to find out. So here we are. I'm going to stick the trap arm right on there, and we'll tighten it down here with the nut. So this is what I normally do, is I'll just go on there and put it on till it's snug by hand. We'll do that here too. So I just do finger tighten, all right? Just nice and snug like that, okay? Nothing too big. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 3-way wrench here, and it has this groove cut in it, which is made for doing these kinds of nuts. And we're going to put some stress on this puppy here, see if we can't tighten it down and see what it does. So I didn't even go 1/4 of a turn. Okay, so I'll just take the wrench here and we'll loosen it. And let's loosen it up here. We'll take it off and we'll see if there's any cracks. Now, I don't see anything here and nothing here on the threads at all. It doesn't look like there's any damage or stress or anything here. So maybe it's something that once it's under compression and overstressed for a few weeks, maybe something happens. Maybe it's the vibration from the garbage disposal, which would be here on a kitchen sink. But right now, I mean, this thing looks pretty good to me. Maybe it's reacting to the chlorine in the water. I don't know. The other thing I've seen people do is I see Neanderthals come in here with their channel locks and start way over tightening things like this. The other thing I see is Neanderthals come in here with their channel locks, and I see them greatly over tightening things like this. They'll go like that. And they just keep going and going until it just doesn't turn anymore, and that can put a lot of stress on that as well. See? If I just keep going, I'm going to see how far I can take it. Sometimes they'll grip it around there and keep turning it like that. So I'm going as hard as I can, and I want to see, I still don't hear it cracking or anything like that. All right, so now we're going to loosen it. And take it off by hand. All right, so as you can see, I've stressed this thing every way I possibly could here with these, and nothing. There's no damage. I can't see any cracks or anything there. So I don't know why the other one cracked up so much. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, well, how did you solve this then? How do we fix this problem then with the P-trap? Well, it's simple. In this case here, we have to get rid of this. There's just something inherently wrong with the manufacturing on this one. We can't use these transparent P-traps anymore. We either have to go back to this one or something else, but I have a better idea. Let's take a look at that right now. Okay, so there's the trap, and it seems to be running perfectly. The wear height is set perfectly here, and it is a downslope to that long pipe, the trap arm going into the wall. So the water's flowing, and you don't really see a leak, but I can feel a little moisture right around here on the trap seal nut right there. You can see it on the finger too. So we'll take off this P-trap here and take a look at it.
Eat your cereal in it.
Okay, so there you can see the cracks that are on the P-trap there. I mean, and this piece is 2 weeks old, because we came over here 2 weeks ago and replaced it after the other one had been in place for a couple of months, working flawlessly, and then all of a sudden started leaking. So the only thing we can think of is that there's vibration being caused by this garbage disposal, even though you couldn't really see it that much. But, you know, vibration down on the molecular level is completely different. Because the gauge of the steel on the sink is very thin. It's like the thinnest I've ever seen. The plastic doesn't seem to be working here very well. We're going to replace this here with a 22 gauge brass tubing. And I would like to see that garbage disposal try to break this metal tube here. Okay, so what we like better about the metal one, see, it comes with a gasket to put around the connection there at the trap seal. Whereas the plastic one, it's just plastic up against plastic. And then the nut comes in, and sometimes it puts a little bit of stress on these threads, causing that crack. So the metal is much more reliable here. It's normally not an issue, but in this case, we do have to use the metal P-trap. So there we have our metal tube P-trap installed there. Now we're going to run the water and test it, make sure it's okay. And again, let me remind you folks, this one right here is the most important connection. This is the one that you have to make sure is completely, totally aligned, absolutely dead on perfect before you tighten that nut. And you tighten him first, and then you can tighten the other ones. Now you can have them all kind of loosen in place and all that, but don't tighten any of these down until this joint is satisfied first. Otherwise you will get leaks here, because it's just it's a really stupid design. It's always been like that, and it's always prone to leaks there. No leaks. You want to let the water run for several minutes, and you want to check this point, and this point for water. You just feel around for moisture, okay? Then after that, you fill the whole basin with water, and you do the drain test on that too. Let it see how a huge inrush of water goes through here. Make sure there's no leaks. And then you want to let it sit overnight with a pot under it, and make sure that no water shows up in here in the next morning, that you don't see any water in the pan here. You can also put a paper towel down as well instead of the pan, and the paper towel will show any droplets of water that might land on it as well. But so far this looks like a success. And we'll see how long it lasts. I doubt that this metal is going to crack like that plastic did. There's something wrong with that plastic, so I'm going to check with the manufacturer to see if they have any input on this as to why 2 in a row have cracked like that along those threads, when all they did was hand tighten. We didn't even use a tool, we just hand tightened them, and we did not over tighten them at all. So it wasn't anything we did, and remember, they were working perfectly when we left, and it didn't start until 2 weeks later. Then we come back down below here and check around all of those nuts there for leaks. Make sure you don't see anything dripping into the pan. Okay, so we've picked up a few more extras of these, and what we're going to do over the coming weeks is we're going to spend some time testing these. We're going to immerse some of these in the city water from our friend's house there. We're going to go collect some city water from over there and immerse these in there in the tightened position, and we'll find out if there's something in the water that's maybe causing these to weaken as well. So I hope you found this video useful so far, and if you did, hey, please give us a thumbs up down below. That lets us know that you like us. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, hey, why not? Click that subscribe button down below. We've also gotten complaints from our subscribers that they're not getting notified, so you got to make sure you click that gray bell icon right next to the subscribe button, and make sure you make it say to receive all alerts from this channel. That way you won't miss it when we upload or go live. So that's it for this week, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.